welcome Federal Minister for Maritime Affairs, Syed Ali Haider Zaidi. And now I'm requesting my very dear friend and very active member of Corporate Pakistan Group, the Federal Minister for Human Rights, Dr. Shiri Mazari, for her address on Pakistan 2047.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Asfar. Honored guests on the podium, ladies and gentlemen. Thinking of Pakistan's future, one can't predict, but this I can say. The government led by Prime Minister Imran Khan has set in motion certain trends, certain initiatives that if they are followed through, the Pakistan that we saw in the past will not be the Pakistan that we see in the future. We will see a more egalitarian, we will see a less corrupt, we will see a more educated, and when I say educated, as my colleague Shafqat Mahmood pointed out, where education is not a privilege of the few elite classes, but where when we say an educated Pakistan, it means overall every person in Pakistan will be educated. We will see a healthier Pakistan, and we will, for me, which is the most important, a just and fair Pakistan, where rule of law dominates, where justice is available to all, not just to the privileged few. So these are things that we have undertaken. I won't talk about the economy, not my forte, but I will talk about two or three things. The first is, we have finally put Pakistan on the course for developing as a welfare state. We have the Asas program. We have the health card. Our health card program is more evolved than health programs in many developed countries. And certainly, the health card gives Pakistanis better health opportunities than the poor and the needy have in a developed country like the United States. That I can say with assurance, because they do not have a welfare state system, neither a proper healthcare system. Anyhow, but of course there are some European states that have very progressive healthcare systems. But the point is, we are on the path of developing Pakistan as a welfare state where the poor and the marginalized have a social net so that they don't go totally under, and they have their basic necessities even if they're not earning. And that's a major revolutionary change in Pakistan. Education, of course, Shafqat has discussed, which is also revolutionary. There is debate and discussion on the content of the single national curriculum, but there is no denying the fact that this was the need of the hour in Pakistan, where we needed a single national curriculum to give all Pakistani children a level playing field, instead of having an elite class and the rest of Pakistan suffering as a result of this elitism. We also, because we are holding accountability, so we have decided to tackle the menace of corruption head on. And of course, it's a difficult fight, but the Prime Minister and our party are committed to it. And hopefully, the generations to come will continue on that path. As far as justice, which I said was very important, the availability of justice for all, I am pleased to say that we have now set up a legal aid authority, and it is functioning. We have had 2 Board of Governors meetings. So for the first time in Pakistan, as the system exists in Britain, legal aid will be provided for all those needing it. So nobody will be denied justice because they could not afford a lawyer or legal assistance. So that is, and we have also now drafted a complete overhaul of the criminal justice reform system. And tomorrow, in fact, we are meeting to discuss it in detail, and within the next week or 2, the Cabinet will be asked to approve this total overhaul of the criminal justice system, which was much needed. I don't know if anybody remembers, but after the APS tragedy, when the National Action Plan was formulated, the reason given for the military courts being put in place was that we need an overhaul of the criminal justice system, and therefore there was military courts for 2 years. Unfortunately, the previous government did not even set in motion this reform, so as you recall, military courts were given another extension for 2 years. When our government came, we ended that, the extension ended, it was not renewed, and we set about instituting criminal justice reforms, and inshallah, now the whole thing is in place. There are discussions going on. Tomorrow will be a big meeting where we will discuss these, and in the next week or so, Cabinet will be asked to approve this whole package of the criminal reform system. Then finally, I would like to come to, of course, human rights, which is my task under this government. But before I get to that, I just do want to add something about how Pakistan has also, for the first time, changed its foreign policy direction in a very nationalist, a very progressive way. The phrase, absolutely not, I think defines it. No more are we going to act because of money against our own national interest. We will not fight others' wars, as the Prime Minister said categorically. Because our leadership does not have bank accounts and properties in the West to protect, so the Prime Minister can act independently to truly fashion a Pakistan-centric foreign policy, where we want peace in the neighborhood, where we will not become victims of others' wars. We will not allow ourselves to become victims of others' wars. We will not allow our territory to be used against anyone, and we expect that our neighbors will also not allow their territory to be used against the others in that neighborhood. We have this independent stance that we have adopted, I think, will change Pakistan's positioning in the global environment in the future. And the key, the foundation of that is going to be the strategic cooperative partnership with China. And the CPEC is one reflection of it, but there is a strategic cooperation at multiple levels. So that whole dependency, and by the way, I do want to state that there was a myth created that somehow we are dependent on the US and the West because we get weapons from them. I don't know why that myth persists, because let me just clarify. Our missiles are indigenous, our strategic weapon systems. Our nuclear weapon is definitely indigenous, which we got against all odds. So our missile systems are indigenous, our tanks are indigenous. Our artillery is primarily developed with the help of the Chinese. The only thing we are dependent on for the Americans is spares for the F-16s. But as you recall, when they put an embargo, the spares are available in many other countries that also have F-16s. So frankly, this fear and this dependency of that we can't really upset the Americans because we need them for our security is absolute rubbish. We don't and we won't. And I think this recognition and this assertion of this viewpoint by the leadership makes a big difference in the thinking of people. So I think that that is also a very progressive step towards having a Pakistan-centric foreign and defense policy. And of course, as you know, much is said about the great benefits of the IMET program, the International Military Education and Training Program that the US offers. But frankly, after the dismal performances from Vietnam to Afghanistan, I would suggest that Pakistan would be much better off offering an IMET to Western military people, because we seem to have had a better experience, especially in fighting and succeeding against terrorism, especially in what was then the FATA. Anyhow, having made those comments, which may not have been very diplomatic, but then I don't hold a diplomatic position, so I can afford to speak more openly. I'm coming to human rights. Human rights in Pakistan, People talk dismally about, oh my God, look at all the sex crimes and true violence against women. But for the first time, we have a government and a prime minister that is taking note and legislating. And where the legislation already exists, we are enforcing that. We have one of the most progressive transgender laws in the world. Very few countries have the transgender laws. In fact, the Europeans don't even have a recognition of transgender in their visa forms, which I have written an official letter complaining that they need to up their human rights agenda. Because we allow transgenders their choice of their identity, and we allow them that in our passports and in our NICs, which is something very few countries do. But does that mean that we transgenders don't have issues? Yes, they do. But that means that we have to do awareness programs. So our ministry does sensitization programs for transgenders with the police, with the lower judiciary, and of course we are forming transgender centers. And we in fact are in our own ministry, we have a consultant who is a transgender. Our previous consultant we took with us to the CEDAW conference in Geneva as an official delegate. And people were really surprised, and then we had to inform that Pakistan has a very progressive transgender law. We also have many laws on preventing gender-based violence. Sadly, our society lags behind. Women are subjected to abuse. Women are subjected to rape. Women are subjected to harassment at the workplace. And though we have a lot of laws, it's the implementation now that we're looking at. We need to implement them. We have also moved an amendment in the harassment at the workplace law, which was very narrowly defined, and the Supreme Court in its judgment said they couldn't really give the plaintiff justice in the sense what they wanted, because the plaintiff wanted, because the law was so narrow. So we have put in an amendment, and hopefully it will go through Parliament. Our laws take a very long time to go through Parliament because the opposition has decided whether it's a human rights law, whether it's any law, if it's tabled by the government, they must impede it. Our Senior Citizen, Islamabad Senior Citizen Act, which is now there, took 1 year in the Human Rights Committee, which is chaired by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. So that's the priority that the opposition sadly has, but we got it through. We also have a very progressive journalist protection bill, and that has been approved and sort of given not just approval but support by all the journalist community, because we consulted them before we tabled it. It's now in the standing committee and hopefully will be through in a couple of months finally and become law. It, for the first time, that law will place an onus on owners of media houses to provide insurance, to provide emergency training for people that they send into conflict zones and so on. And journalists will be protected from providing sources of their information. So there's a protection not just for journalists but also for media professionals like cameramen, like the staff that goes around the journalists. So that also should be through soon. But one of the most progressive things I think that our Prime Minister has pushed for, and it is now about to become a reality, is legislating against enforced disappearances, criminalizing enforced disappearances. 2 previous political governments talked a lot but never moved at all. We have moved, and the bill has been approved by the Standing Committee, and it will in fact come up today for approval by the National Assembly, or it will be laid before the National Assembly, and after 2 days, which is the procedure, it should be approved and go to the Senate. For the first time, the state is going to be held accountable for excesses against its citizens, because otherwise it's cases of kidnapping, it's not enforced disappearance. This is a major, major development in step forward in human rights in Pakistan. We're also working on the issue of forced conversions. So what I'm saying is that the human rights agenda has become center stage. not only in global politics, but within Pakistan itself, because if you read our manifesto, these were things that were put in our manifesto, and we're living up to those commitments. It's not an easy path. We have child abuse, we have our Zainab Alert app now. By the way, during COVID, we also developed an app for gender-based violence, because we realized that when people are locked up in a house, a woman or a child under stress may not be able to make a call to our helpline and talk. So we have now got an app. If you download that app, you just press a button and we'll get the information of what sort of crime is being committed where, and we would be able to send immediate response to it. So those are things that we have developed. I know that the focus never is on mere human rights in this country. The media talk shows focus on political issues, but human rights is central to our government, and we are making a lot of progress. The road is still long and it's a bumpy road, but if inshallah we are able to traverse it without impediments, then I see a country in the future, 2047, although many of us won't be here by then, but I see a country where there will be human rights for everyone, where people's rights will be protected, and they will have the right of association, the right to practice their religion in freedom, and the right to a good life. In fact, all the rights that are enshrined in our Constitution from Article 1 to 28, which deal with basic human rights, our commitment is there, and we are moving forward, and we hope to have an inclusive, rights-based society in Pakistan. We don't want to have a social welfare approach that the government is doing a favor if it gives people something. We feel our approach is a rights-based approach, that it is the right of every citizen and the obligation of every government to live up to the commitments that are stated in our Constitution, Articles 1 to 28. So hopefully, I see an extremely bright future for a country that has moved on and will be in the top countries as far as human rights is concerned, education, health, and we will be a proper social welfare state. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Shiri Mazari, for her address.